How's everything going? Oh, there we go. Now we're live. Perfect. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of VCTV. One of our favorite topics that we've done frequently and are excited to work through again today on the fintech, finance, blockchain, and banking side. So obviously there's a ton going on in the space right now with a lot of institutionalization. We're seeing prices exploding. We're seeing additional assets exploding. And we're really seeing some of the fragility in the market as well, with DeFi platforms continuing to suffer losses and some of the downside of rapid growth. So we're going to talk through a lot of these pieces today. We've got a fantastic presentation and a really interesting discussion to come after that as well. But why don't we start out with some introductions. My name's Alex McDougall. I'm the head of portfolio management for 3iQ, Canada's largest crypto asset manager. And so I've recently joined that team, but really we're spending a lot of time in the DeFi space and growing out the digital asset management practice. And I'm joined by two experts in the space as well, and an entrepreneur. So Matthew, do you want to take it away? And what I'd love to do is a little bit about your background, a little bit about how you got into the space, and then the most interesting thing that you've seen in the space in 2021 so far.
Okay, thanks a lot. So let's see, firstly, I'm Matthew Lemerle. I'm based in Silicon Valley. I've been here for 35 years. I am English as well as American. My day job is I manage the leading blockchain venture fund of funds. We're investors in 15, actually closer to 20 blockchain VCs globally. Through them, we're investors in about 300 blockchain companies and projects. And we essentially allow our investors to participate in blockchain globally by writing a single check into our fund. So that's most of what I do. I'm also involved in specific projects. I'm vice chairman of SFOX, the crypto prime broker. I am chairman of the Universal Protocol Alliance, which is an alliance of Bittrex, Uphold, Trovio, Ledger, Certicay, and others, building a token factory. And I'm also chairman for Europe at Securitize, which is the leading security token platform. So those are most of my affiliations. What's the most interesting thing I've seen this year? That I'm just pausing to think about that, because there's so much innovation and excitement in the space that there's probably more than one answer to the question. This will sound self-serving, but at the end of the day, I'm going to pick Universal Carbon, which is the world's first tradable carbon credit backed by rainforest carbon credits. And you can think about this as being crypto meets the rainforest. So Elon Musk, as I think we all know, just bought $1.5 billion of Bitcoin. But the other thing he did was he tweeted, "Hodl the rainforest." And the reason for that is that the world is destroying very rapidly the remaining virgin rainforests and killing most of the animals that live in them. And we're beginning to understand that we can't have a planet that has been devastated by human activity, and the climate is not going to be very friendly if that's the way we behave. So what we've just done is we've tokenized rainforest carbon credits. Universal Carbon is the name, or UPCO2, that's the name of the token. You can find it at Uphold, and today it launched at Bittrex Global. And if anyone wants to list that token, we'd love to speak with you. And I'll include my contact details in the link. So that's my answer to your question. It's a little self-serving, but I think that crypto can save the rainforest, and I think Elon Musk hopes that we'll rise to the challenge.
Super interesting, and I love that the construct of pricing externalities and basically getting past the idea that dollars and cents are the only markers of value, into adding that there are other intangible pieces of value that now with a greater proliferation of digital technologies, including AI, IoT, all of the ways that we can calculate the broader world around us, to be able to price that and to be able to sort of filter it all down to a traditional dollars and cents system that we understand.
Yes.
There's some really cool initiatives going on you nailed it on one that's live and really interesting on that side. And the overall construct of taking ecosystems, the Chiang Mai Mountains in Thailand is one where there's some really interesting projects going on, and basically looking to sort of calculate a health score for the project or for the ecosystem as a whole, using a whole bunch of very diversified technologies. And instead of running a fund that tries to make it as maximum as possible, get the concept of equality and the concept of balance, and use all of the numbers and math behind that to make it all work. So,
and I think one of the things the world is still struggling to understand, but the digital natives get, is the value of scarce utility functions that you care about, but that maybe the world historically didn't. So status is an example, right? I mean, in the old world, you got status because you went to an Ivy League university and because you joined a club in Manhattan. In the digital world, you get scarcity because you've got the only golden cape in RuneScape, right? And most of the world doesn't understand that. And NFTs and even the trading of real world assets suddenly gets quite different if people are valuing utilities that are not dollars and cents, which is your point. So the diversity of the rainforest is an unpriced utility, which should be one of the most valuable utilities in the world. But to date, it's been very hard to put a price on it. And we now need to put a price on it because we're losing a lot of the things humankind values the most because they don't show up in the stock market and Wall Street doesn't put a price on them. Mm-hmm. So now we have to start pricing those things in. I'm agreeing with you. And I think NFTs is a fun, crypto kitties is sort of fun example of how something can have value, even if most people look at it and say there is no value to it.
Yeah, and it's basically pricing out and using the underlying infrastructure of a very well-developed capital markets to apply the same principles of supply and demand and scarcity and fundamental value to things that have traditionally not had that applied to them. And totally agree with you. Let's move on, although we could probably spend the entire session talking about pricing non-financial assets. Let's move on to Brent. What's a little bit about your background with Unventures, and then what's the coolest thing you've seen in the market in 2021 so far?
Yeah, well, always hard to follow Matthew and his experience, but Brent Noyce, founder and director of Unventures. We're an early stage investor syndicate consisting of about 500 investors that we syndicate deals to on a weekly basis. A little bit about my background. I originally got into this space not on purpose. I worked for Tim Draper in 2014, and we were running a fintech incubation program there. And one of the companies that I was working with was building a derivatives trading platform built on Ethereum. And if you kind of think about how ahead of the time that was, it was amazing. I was instantly kind of hooked on this new technology of blockchain. It honestly, it seemed like magic to me. They were able to take derivative trade settlements from 3 days down to 15 seconds. And I was suddenly just like, what is this magic? They kept trying to get me involved in coming to the Ethereum meetup groups. This is when Ethereum was trading at $3. I was like, I don't have enough time. And, obviously in hindsight, I really should have made time. So that's what brought me into the space. Post that, I left there and started my own fintech incubator. And we've worked with close to at least 30 to 40% of our projects had a blockchain component. So we've worked with a widespread group of different companies in the space, at the early kind of ideation to, commercialization of these companies over the last 5 years, and kind of built that into from a incubator program into a syndication, kind of now focus more on the investment side of all of this. And for me, the DeFi space is kind of this conversion of fintech and blockchain in the area that I've always wanted to kind of to turn into something. So I'm not sure that I have a specific project that I want to call out as far as what's the most exciting thing I've seen. But what's most exciting for me is, last year we were trying to raise capital for, a liquidity platform, and no one cared. This was coming into the pandemic, and I couldn't get anyone's attention. It was terrible. And then we kind of just said, okay, maybe the space still isn't there. Maybe it's going to happen in 1 or 2 years from now. And then unfortunately, we kind of dropped off with that project. And then the DeFi space blew up and suddenly everyone seemed to get it or get excited about it. So, in general, I'm excited about the overall space. And for me, it's just kind of like I said, I think it's convergence of fintech and blockchain coming together to hopefully create, a different, financial, ecosystem and a financial system that we've never experienced before using technology versus, trust factors that have primarily been people and institutions.
Yeah, no, fantastic point. And I feel like everybody who's been in the blockchain world for a little while has the I got a call about Ethereum when it was trading at $3. And also I was trying to pitch this project and just nobody wanted anything to do with it. And then 6 months later it exploded. And I think that's maybe my coolest point of 2021. And obviously from an interest perspective, I'm totally aligned with Matthew on that sort of bleeding edge of bringing non-financial pieces into the calculable and digital world. But I think all the way on the other end of the spectrum are very basic financial instruments to just get traditional institutions a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more exposure to the blockchain world are getting better and better and better. I mean, you've seen ETFs be approved in Canada over the last week, and the sales cycle to get those trillions of dollars of capital off of the sidelines from the purely old school world into even the putting 50 basis points of your overall exposure into this type of world. The sales cycle is shortening, and there's more and more willingness. There's more and more check marks. There's more and more good examples and superstars inside traditional institutions who are sort of leading the flag and being the standard bearers. Obviously, going up 5x it makes everybody look pretty good on when you're pushing those boundaries internally. But just the growing institutionalization of this market and the attendant growth in the sophistication of the back-end instruments, the back-end capital markets, the open lending platforms, the DeFi platforms to a certain extent as well. But just all of that, the blocking and tackling nuts and bolts stuff really coming along is fascinating and sets us up really nicely for growth. But with that, I want to bring in our guest presenter for the day. So Evgeny, do you want to take over and tell us a little bit about your project, and then we can use that as a launching off point for the remainder of our discussion today.
Hi everyone. Okay, my name is Evgeny Kuzin. Thank you for this opportunity. Okay, everyone can hear me well, right? I can start.
Yep.
Perfect. So now I would like to introduce our project. LATOKEN platform is distributed ledger technology based on proof-of-stake consensus algorithm with additional functions of DPoS, delegated proof-of-stake, LPoS, list proof-of-stake, and proof of identity. LATOKEN platform was launched with Genesis block in February 2017. A few months later, I joined this project. The platform is working without interruption all these years and is constantly being improved. During this time, we have improved our interface, introduced new functions, and released mobile and web application. At summer 2020, we have announced and launched our constructor based on our technology that allows anyone to launch his own blockchain without programming knowledge, literally in 5-10 minutes. So the most common idea for implementing your DLT project is to use smart contracts now. However, the creation of smart contracts requires significant labor cost for programmers and development. Code of smart contract is written in Solidity, and there is not enough specialists on market yet. Not to mention that retraining of own developers also requires investment and time. Moreover, each function of blockchain requires the creation of separate smart contracts, and you also need to make compatibility between them. As a result, we got long period to start a pilot product for businesses and companies, and it's increased the cost to implement blockchain into business. LATOKEN provides users with smart technology that is software with ready-made functionality built into the platform for solving specific problems, which reduce the cost for implementation and the use of blockchain technology in business and enterprises. Another thing to mention that smart technology chain is written in widely used programming language Java, which means you can attach your own programmers and developers to work on pilot project. So the chain platform includes many features required for business, and it's ready to use. Companies and startups can have platform with high capacity that can be fully customized to the particular business, be it supply chain, ERP system, IoT, banking, or insurance fields. You can deploy our blockchain on different OS operation systems. Companies and startups can try more than 50 built-in functions and use them regarding their business. I would like to mention one of them is identification mechanism that follows international standard KYC EML, which is necessary for banking and insurance sectors. It's kind of digital ID or passport created on blockchain. The project that we already have, we already did is one of them is value exchange accounting system. It is an accounting system for assets exchange between users and businesses. SafePay is electronic invoicing for online payments without credit cards and banking acquiring. It was a project for banking field. And as example from IoT field, with our partners, I'm Energetic Guys, name of the company. Together we build a system for electricity measuring. Data from electricity counter are recorded directly into blockchain that provides transparent to their customers. Our big and important project for crypto DeFi field is the Decentralized Exchange that already supports most famous tokens such Bitcoin, Litecoin, and other Bitcoin type currencies. But also we have achieved interoperability with Ethereum network that allow trade Bitcoin to Ethereum and use ERC20 tokens on our platform, on our decentralized exchange. Also, another main goal of our DEX is host the ICO projects that have created their sidechains using the Erachain software. Since all our work was in Russia, we are an unknown blockchain in the international market. To change it, what we need right now is an investment around $500,000 that will go to marketing and product development. We expect to have income from three main areas. First is the decentralized exchange. Another is new products and side chains and consulting. Our investors will get a part of emitted tokens of main Erachain network, shares of company, and be impact investor to be a co-owner of the companies that we will create together. The strongest areas of our team are technology and product. And what we really need now is a good international marketing. At this stage is our most important goal to become a new standard in the blockchain world. Thank you for your time and attention. I will get to answer all your questions. Please, go ahead.
Great. Matt or Brent, do you want to kick off with a couple of questions for a few minutes?
Sure.
Yeah, I'll jump in there real quick. Could you tell me about it looks like a good product. It was a good presentation, just to give you a little quick feedback. Tell me about the competitive landscape. I mean, yeah.
Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
Talk to me about your competitors and what your differentiation point is.
Okay, competitors. As far as well, at least because I'm responsible for international market, and I search for the projects more or less similar to our. One of them is Neo, I could say, because the logic was similar, but they don't have that much features yet. I don't see. For example, one of our main is identification for users, because the idea of our architecture, Dmitry Malayev, it was that blockchain someday will be really working together with the government and businesses. And for banking, for example, it's very important to identify the accounts, crypto accounts, and it should be transparent. Yeah, maybe way of economic should change, but still it's a future. And in this case, yes, I think we are ahead of even this company Neo. Another is, I could say, it's NTX, if I remember correctly. It's in Europe. It's quite famous blockchain. It was built on the core on another previous blockchain as a sidechain or even hard fork. And few of others, I don't remember, but in general, there's like really few projects that are offering a whole software. Not I don't know, like it's a side, most of them it's a side chains of Ethereum or Bitcoin, most of them. And the whole software just coming from few companies for now.
Thank you.
Gotcha. Talk to us a little bit about the decentralized exchange aspect of this, and I suppose the main piece being the interoperability with the Ethereum network, given that's where the majority of volumes, the majority of assets live today. How are you? And I think we all know some of the limitations on Ethereum, of especially with $2,000 ETH, the gas costs are extraordinary. And it creates limited liquidity and limited usability on some of these transactions and platforms. How are you guys helping to alleviate that?
Okay, a little bit about our DEX. It's built-in functions already in the blockchain. It's going with a desktop wallet, with a web wallet, and a mobile application. So basically, it's a similar, if as example, I could say Binance DEX, for example, or even Uniswap. Just it's built in a different blockchain. So about interoperability, we created, build our own hubs, centralized hubs that connecting two different blockchains. For example, our and Ethereum. So we need to have node and the machine working, and then we provide a script between them to make this transaction. So basically, for user, he doesn't feel it. He just need to put withdraw or deposit Ethereum to our main network, and depends on the proofs of the validators from this blockchain. It will take maybe up to, in Ethereum, I could say it's up to 10 minutes maximum, because of course it depends on how the network is busy. With Bitcoin, a bit longer, because we also know that it takes a long time. But for example, with Horizon, if you know the company Horizon, it's between 5. When it's fast, it's even from 1 minute to 10 minutes. Depends on the blockchain that we create this bridge.
Okay, so you're trying to play sort of an interconnective fabric rather than a layer 2 scaling solution.
Also, by the way, we actually not long time ago we were checking a few solutions from decentralized bridge. There's some companies, cannot say the name now. They're providing decentralized bridge from Ethereum network. It can take like up to 1 or 2 days the transaction, but it's safer in this case because the breach is decentralized. But it's also not a problem for us to use this one for big investors, for example.
Right. Cool. And I wanted to dive in sort of
and
to the
also,
broader.
sorry,
Yeah, go ahead.
the one important point that we are compatible to Uniswap, for example, it's a transaction cost. In our case, it's really low, the cost of the transaction of the transactions. So basically, for example, for a user from Ethereum network, if he wants to send a ERC20 token or Ethereum itself, it will take the first only cost to send from, basically it's from one Ethereum wallet to another one, and then he can use all over it in our main network, send it to his friends during another wallets with really low transaction cost, and trade it and scale that. The same for another.
Cool. And I want to pick up the DeFi thread from a broader perspective in a moment. But Matt, any questions for Evgeny?
Not really. I think I'm sort of tracking along with what you're doing. I think that here in the States, it's a lot already to talk about your your blockchain solution and the DeFi exchange. As soon as you throw in consulting as well, it's sort of a red flag. Consultants consult, entrepreneurs build businesses. And as soon as you say you're going to do both, it sort of becomes a bit of a challenge. So this is just, I'm not sure if when you say you're going to do consulting too, you mean what we think you mean. Maybe you mean something else.
Maybe because consulting, it's in case it's a part of the business that when, for example, let's say a new company, a new startup want to create his blockchain using our technology, we're going to provide him help and support. This is what I'm. In this case, it's in the beginning. It's in the beginning. Basically, when the company learn how to use it and they have already familiar with the API and RPC, then he will go himself. They will go themselves, and they don't need our help anymore. Updates.
Yeah, I do understand. So I'm just sort of brushing off some old SaaS. SME SaaS experiences. SaaS solutions offered to startups and small businesses become a problem because the amount of hand-holding you have to do relative to the amount of benefit you can capture is small, and most of the SMEs never scale. So we would normally say, I understand what you're saying you're doing. I mean, obviously, if you were providing easy to configure blockchains for established or substantial undertakings, then that's very easy to understand. But if you're going to have to hold hands with lots of blockchain startups, you'll probably find yourself sucked down into a world of having to do a lot of work and not really getting much.
Educating them.
Yeah, and obviously if they're paying, that's very different than if everything's on a future revenue share and you have to do the work up front. But the reality is most of them are just learning. It's like every student signs up because they want you to teach them how to build their own blockchain. So anyhow, that's where I was heading when I was saying, consulting is a bit of a challenge.
I understand.
That's what I meant by that. But anyhow, back to you, Alex and Brett.
No, and thanks a lot, Evgeny, and please jump into our broader discussion here as well. And I think I want to sort of take the DeFi stuff that you have been talking about and some of the names that you threw out from a decentralized exchange to Uniswap, and talk through a little bit of a bigger concept with Matt and Brett and yourself as well. There's a perfect example of sort of some of the ongoing challenges with DeFi. Not too long ago, there was an issue with Compound whereby the Compound protocol worked perfectly, but there was a blip in one of the pricing feeds that went into it. So the price of DAI was glitched upwards on Coinbase Pro, and as a result, $100 million of loans got liquidated. And so as safe and good, and the wall clock time keeps running, these platforms continue to become more resistant to exploitations, more resistant to attacks. The ones that have been up and running for a long time, there's still this challenge with this sort of complete 1 to 0 binary, transparent algorithmic logic, where a centralized company and a centralized corporation sitting on top of that can say, well, that's clearly not what we were intending to do. Let's undo that. Let's manage those types of situations. And it's more of a discussion that I want to spur about where are we in the adoption of these complete machine speed systems, and where can we get to a situation where a machine is smart enough to be able to sort of identify outliers like that and identify pieces and create these completely circular economies where we actually can take human circuit breakers out of it? And I get that that's sort of a bigger question, but curious your guys' thoughts on where we're at in that evolution. And maybe we'll start with you, Brett.
Sure. I think we're early. I mean, so I think we're just figuring it out. So in the blockchain space, it always feels like, I don't know, like six steps forward. Like they're always like these big leaps forward and then 12 steps back, right? And they all seem to happen, so we continue to find holes and gaps in the technology. So I think we're early. I think, I come from two different kind of ideologies. I grew up in, small business, kind of farmland type of background where, Main Street type of thing where, we're always trying to solve problems with people, and technology is kind of a second thought. And then I've spent 7 years in the Bay Area working with, frontier tech, right? And I feel like technologists always think that the problem could be 100% solved with, technology. And I think that's kind of the core of the question you're asking. And I kind of feel like it's neither one or the other, right? I don't think that we're going to be fully 100% decentralized where we just let the blockchains do their business and there's no human interaction or oversight. I just don't think we'll ever reach that. I could be 100% wrong. I'll leave that open to discussion with Matthew and the rest of the panel here, but I think it's a hybrid of both. And I think that when we look at like robo-advisors, I think the original idea was, hey, we're just going to set it and forget it. These, we can replace the financial advisor. And I don't think that's happened in reality. And I think blockchain will follow a similar path.
Yeah, no, great point. And I think that robo-advisors is a great example of that, where you can automate the rote pieces, but there's still this layer on top of value add that I think we're getting. That layer of value add is getting more and more able to be performed by the underlying systems. But you're absolutely right. There's going to be a role for a long time for human discretion and human oversight. My biggest point is that you can make things as fast as you possibly want on the machine speed side, but if you still need to have a human person, clicking a button that says go, it basically doesn't matter the rest of the technological evolution. So there's this tipping point where we can truly create machine speed webs of commerce that creates an entirely different dynamic than we have today. And it's that hybrid of finding it.
Yeah. And there's always the people factor is always lagging, right? So the technology, there's so much of the stuff that we see that it can be built. It's not a question of can it be built, can it be done? It's really a question of, will people adopt it? Will people change their behavior? And I feel like that's oftentimes the biggest hurdle.
Yeah, I think the behavioral change is a critical factor. And if you create, my thesis is if you create solutions that are just net better than what exists today, people won't even make decisions. They'll just accidentally adopt it and fall into it. And we have blockchain such a foundational technology that you can create those solutions, but getting it from the foundation and all the layers and web all the way up to the top, where it is just seamless for the grandmas and the corporate grandmas of the world, is the challenge. And maybe I'll bring in Evgeny on that point as well, given you're essentially trying to abstract away a lot of the challenges of blockchain. Where do you think on that question?
Well, first, I mean, the first good example of what you mentioned, it was Ethereum Classic, no? When something happened and they like, okay, we will fix it.
Yeah.
half of the community got not happy with this, but it happened. It didn't stop them. Even it's like considered the most decentralized blockchain after Bitcoin, but still. on the other hand, I mean, we're gonna learn still on the mistakes in the beginning, because we see the example of the pioneers, like a DAI, right? And each next DeFi platform is getting better. I mean, even Uniswap, right? We have now 1inch, another decentralized exchange that already have better features, better tools, and learning and the mistakes. I could say that in general now, proof of stake blockchains and platforms, they still can consider a bit like centralized regarding the community, if community agrees with these solutions, like to make some steps back. And I guess every new project, they have opportunity still fix some mistakes, if community agreed, if their community agree.
Constant evolution.
It's working proof of stake perfectly, actually.
Makes sense. Matt, do you want to have a final comment on that?
It's an interesting conversation. I'm on the faculty at Singularity University. That's Peter Diamandis and Ray Kurzweil and so on. And they call it the singularity because they have this belief that at some point in the future, the computers will have more capability than the humans, and we'll see a reversal of how things happen in the world at large. I've always struggled a bit with that. I'm definitely a bit more with Brett, which I think even very smart networks and very smart computing devices are still going to get programmed, I think, and I hope, by human beings. I think the scarcest resources in the world right now are the people, and maybe Evgeny is one of them, but the people who can operate at that interface and figure out how to actually make machines, devices, blockchains do their bidding, so that they can mine a global network to whatever purpose they are put. And I have the greatest respect for those people. I'm not one of them. I don't know how to do it. And so, even when it comes to something like marketing, I have no idea how to take blockchaincoinvestors.com and make everyone in the world aware of it. I mean, I come here and I speak at events, but I'm not Cambridge Analytica. I don't know how to move millions of people with technology. So why am I going down this path? Because I don't know where we'll finish up, but I know that if I was a 18-year-old, this is my space. I would be trying to learn this stuff. It's something to do with mathematics. It's got something to do with computer science. It's got a lot to do with behavioral science and sociology. It's got some psychology. I think it's got a bit of geography thrown in. And if you master those disciplines, I think, you can do amazing things with the technologies we currently have it. And I do think that we see glimmers of it everywhere. It's sort of like some person forks Uniswap, creates sushi, and suddenly has a huge thing on their hands. It's like, how did they do that? And maybe they shouldn't have done it, and maybe the community's angry with them now. But in a matter of a week, they moved the market. GameStop, we could talk about that. Obviously, someone behind the scenes moved hundreds of thousands of people to invest a little bit of money in a stock and made it go through the roof. Maybe it was just the wisdom of the crowd. I don't think so. I think some people were very cleverly manipulating, just like we did, I suspect the US government did in the Arab Spring or in the Hong Kong, who knows? I don't think these things just happen. I think sophisticated people with great skills know how to move large populations of people and are beginning to exert themselves. And I think that it would be a good skill set to have.
That is a very interesting take on it, and because in one sense, the system's so complicated that you can't see the edges of it. And as an individual who has a limited data processing, limited connectivity, and just limited capacity to process what's actually happening, totally agree with you. But if there is that way to filter down all of the system into a few levers that essentially you put yourself in, and then the system propagates that, then that's exactly right. And search engine optimization is a critical or a classic example of that. Machine speed DeFi algorithms, and basically most of the attacks we see in DeFi world aren't necessarily exploits or aren't necessarily hacks. They're just an exploitation of machine speed logic and little holes in coding. And basically you're putting a little bit of an asset and a little bit of a push into one thing and relying on algorithms to blow it up into something that's much, much, much bigger. And that's exactly your point. And I think there's an angle of philosophy to it as well, Matthew, that I think we've never had to program philosophy into our systems before. But even you see it in self-driving cars of what decision do you make in a crisis mode, and that's sort of a classic example that has a lot of philosophical undertones to it. And now we need to program those in. And is it value of life? Is it what are you calculating to actually make those decisions? But totally agree with you. And maybe we've got 2 minutes left here. Let's do a quick roundtable on just your final thoughts and blockchain world, DeFi world, finance world. What are you excited for, and where can people find you? And maybe we'll start with you again, Brett.
Yeah. So what I'm excited, I think we've come a long ways. So I think as far as like opportunities, I still think like the UI side of this still isn't 100% there. So I still think that there's opportunity to build better, prettier products that bring more people into the masses. So I think that's kind of where I see the evolving opportunity. And I can be found at brnoise@unventures.co and on Twitter and LinkedIn at Brett Noise. And as always, thank you for the opportunity.
Awesome. And Evgeny?
So I'm most excited as a blockchain enthusiast in the new way of dealing between people in the future, how they will work together and deal with each other. And I believe that actually this will be more transparency in general in the world and the economy. In economy, in Europe, it's a big anchor, the GDPR law, for example. I am pretty sure it's going to change in the future. And example who is going to work and to change this, to bring the technology.
And where can people find you?
So yes, you can see the our website, and the mail on the, I think on the last page. You have presentation and LinkedIn, my LinkedIn.
Fantastic.
So you can.
And Matthew, bring us home.
So I'm going to just double down on that line of thinking. I like what Jenny just said. And Alex, I like what you said. Brett and I are the old ball guys. I think it's a big thought that the next generation, the digital natives, have got to be clear on what they value, and they should start using innovation and technology to instrument the world in the direction they want to head. We can go political on that. I don't understand why the digital natives are voting for 70-year-olds who have completely different values to them. I don't get that. But hopefully we'll start seeing a political landscape shift. But I want to close then with the environment. I know every digital native cares that the planet be cleaner for themselves and for their children. And I do think that universal carbon, which is where I began the conversation, I think this is just a cry for support. If you've got an exchange, if you've got a wallet, and you care about the climate and you care about blockchain and crypto, would you please list universal carbon, UPCO2? We think it's good for the planet, and it's a way for the blockchain community to hodl the rainforest. And so that's how I'm going to finish up, Alex. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Myself, Alex McDougall. I can find more information about 3iQ at 3iq.ca. Myself, hit me up on LinkedIn, Alex McDougall, or on Twitter as well. But fantastic session. Really appreciate everybody's time. Have a fantastic rest of your day.